this episode, I'm sharing what a trip to Miraval in Arizona taught me about perception, self-trust, grief, and learning how to let go and let support in. Through horse therapy and the art of Kintsugi, I explore what it means to love ourselves deeply without needing validation from the outside. If you've been carrying too much for too long, this one, my friend, is for you. Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I am your host, Brenda Reese, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, if you've listened to the last couple of solo episodes, The Good Girl Syndrome and the Difference 2 Years Makes, you already know the terrain I've been walking through these last few months. It's been tender, disorienting at times, yet deeply clarifying. Now, today's episode is a continuation of that story, but also a turning point. I want to share about my experience at the Miraval Resort in Arizona, not as a travel story, but as a healing experience that arrived at exactly the right time. It's one that reminded me again that healing doesn't always come from effort. Sometimes it comes from permission. And as always, my hope is that you listen, or as you listen, you're going to find yourself saying, yeah, me too. I get it. Now, this trip had been on my calendar since summer. There's a group of women that have been going to Miraval together for several years, and I had not been able to join them before. Caregiving for Doug, managing the house, navigating the transition into memory care, all the stuff that I've talked about in other episodes. It just wasn't possible. Yet this year felt different. Even though I hadn't taken a trip all year, largely because of Doug's falls, the concussions, and the constant state of alert I was living in, I finally said yes. And if you listen to the difference 2 years makes, you know why that felt so big. I had been carrying a belief that if I left, something would go wrong, that I would be needed, that it was on me to hold everything together. Letting others help felt unsafe. That belief was already beginning to crack before this trip. Yet Miraval finished the job. Miraval, if you don't know, is a wellness resort in Arizona, and it's focused on health healing, pretty much conscious living. It's all inclusive. Food, classes, experiences from early morning to early evening. You got fitness classes, art, meditation, rope courses, manifestation classes, soul work, equine therapy. And yes, the food was excellent. Everything was clearly labeled gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, nut-free, a rotating menu, and a smoothie bar open all day with snacks. That smoothie bar, I think, might have been my favorite healing modality. Oh my God, the weather was stunning. It was in the low 80s, a complete contrast to the torrential rain we'd been having in Washington. My nervous system noticed the difference immediately. It was like this beautiful energy. Now, the way this group had worked was beautiful. We chose our own experiences, and the only plan was to meet for dinner Saturday night. That was it. Or at least that was the plan. What actually happened surprised me. We ended up meeting at lunchtime, or we took classes together. We shared space, without pressure or obligation. It just was this beautiful synchronicity that was happening. And that mattered more than I realized. Because the last group experience I'd had about a year and a half earlier was with a spiritual mentor, and it went very wrong. It was terrifying, disorienting, and it left a mark. So without consciously realizing it, I had been cautious around group experiences ever since. Now, this being in a group without this hierarchy, without the pressure, without losing myself, was really gently and quietly healing for me. Now, I had signed up for classes. I didn't do too many this time. Usually, I go back to back. But in this case, I was very just taking my time, and I was very not even efficient. It was just, I had a purpose for this trip. And there was 2 experiences I was really looking forward to. Now, the one I was really excited about was the equine experience, what I lovingly call horse therapy. I signed up for it as a group session, and I ended up being the only one. So it became a solo experience. Now, this guide had been trained and mentored for years. His presence, it just felt calming, open, grounded, and you could tell he just deeply cared by the way he talked, by the way you felt, by how he just was around me. He was also trained in the work of Gabor Mate, which I deeply respect. And before we began, it's important to know I set an intention. I wanted to be there as a participant, not as a coach, not analyzing how he coached, because I can do that. I'm always perfecting my craft, and I'm always watching how people coach and learning things. But I wasn't there for that. What I really wanted was healing. What I really wanted was to listen deeply to myself and to him. I wanted to feel, I wanted to allow, because I was hurting, and I wanted whatever healing this experience could offer me. And so that was my intention. Now, there were about 8 horses in total, and we walked out kind of into a field through a gate into a field. And we had the horses were mainly kind of loosely gathered. There was a couple together over here and some single ones. A few were nipping at each other. And then there was one that was standing by the gate, by the entry to the gate, to the field. And I'll talk about her later. But most of them they were kind of doing their own thing. And the guide said to me, after we were talking about how our stories can cause our suffering, how being present is important, and just laying the groundwork, he did a really good job to where I felt safe. I felt heard before we even walked into the field, which I think is extremely valuable. I value that. Safety is one of the things that I value with my clients and with people in general. But he said to me, "Which horse are you drawn to?" And I pointed to the one. So they were all kind of looking at me a little curious, but there's one that had turned away from me, was looking out over the fence. And I said, "That one." And he says, "Well, okay, why that one?" Because, right. So he's watching everything. So he's watching my body movements. He's watching my breathing, how I stand. This guy's good, watching all the nonverbals, because that's really important when you're in these situations and when you're there for this purpose. And so I said, "Because it's ignoring me, and I'm curious why." I mean, I felt like a horse was ignoring me. So he asked if there could be another reason the horse turned away. And I'm like, so I'm already feeling like, let me tell you this, let give you a little background. When I walk in, I'm already noticing I'm a little guarded. Okay. This is new. This is a vulnerable situation. Even though I want healing, even though I want to let go and I want to be there for myself, there's a part of me that's protecting me. Okay, there's a part of me that has a little bit of resistance. I think you guys understand this. And by that, I know, because I can feel myself. I'm stiffer. I'm breathing more shallow. And I'm here in my head. Okay. So this is what I'm already kind of noticing. And I'm wanting to relax, but I'm on alert. Now I'm coming off of this pretty heavy duty, couple months of the betrayal, all the things that I had talked about already. So I wanted you to understand that this is, I'm noticing, even as a coach, for Pete's sake, right? Because that was coming up for me too. I'm a coach. I should know how to let go. God, we can be so mean to each other, or to ourselves. Sorry. Well, and each other, but to ourselves. So I am holding myself. I'm wanting to say the right answer. My little perfectionist was up. I wanted to do it the right way. And this will come later too when I tell you about my other experience. I needed it to do it the right way. And it was crazy because that's really not why I was there. And he was doing a great job trying to get me to breathe and relax. Yet it was really valuable. So, okay. So he's asking me, could there be another reason why this horse is supposedly ignoring me, right? Could there be another reason? And I'm like, I couldn't see one. And then he just kind of gently, because he did the whole thing gently, he kind of points over toward the barn where the horse was looking. And right on cue, kind of, a woman walks out, and he said, "That's my coworker." And he goes, "She comes out of that barn about the same time every day." Now, the other horses I'm noticing were kind of perked up, and they were all moving towards this other horse, towards the fence. He said, "You know what she has in her pocket?" No. He goes, "Apples. It's snack time." And they all know it. So, so now it's like he proposes. Was the horse ignoring me? Or was she simply taking care of herself? That moment landed deeply. I could feel that. This is about perception, right? And that was so valuable to me. So I noticed I took a little bit of a deeper breath. Okay. It's like, oh. And then he said to me, "Where else are you taking things so personally?" Ouch. I'm like, oh, well, almost everywhere. You know what happened with my husband? Took that personally. And, it's like feeling like a victim, taking this personally. There were all these things that I was taking personally that just started kind of popping, right? They just started popping. And that's okay. I'm going to say this because when we're hurting, when our wounds are activated, it's easy to misinterpret what's happening around us, right? And we feel like it's happening to us. And we have a tendency to personalize, okay? To assume, to create stories that increase our suffering. Oh my God. I knew this. I teach this. That's what I trust me, I did end up letting that go. But I was holding on to that still. But I was learning something new about myself and my wound, because the more work we do, the deeper we go, the more can be revealed, and it becomes more subtle. I'm never going to arrive. Nothing's ever perfect. But there was a little part of me, because I think there's parts of us, right? There was a part of me that thought, we were going to get this one right. But my wound had been activated, and that's what I was there to heal. Now, as the experience continued, I watched my inner world reflected back to me through these horses. It was amazing. When I spoke from my head, right, when I was popped into my head, because I could tell, I felt different, right? My body felt different. It felt stiffer. It felt more tight. But when I spoke from my head, explaining, analyzing, the horses moved away. When I was in my body, when I soften my heart, when I can feel tears coming, as we were talking back and forth, when I allowed myself to feel, the horses came closer. And this happened over and over again until by the end, right, of the 2 hours, they were pretty much within 8 feet of me, and they were in an oval around me. And the hierarchy, the horse, they said there's a hierarchy in horses. So the horse that was kind of in charge, Duchess, she came right in front of me and she just stood there. And I could feel my whole nervous system just relax, and I could breathe. My heart felt expansive. My body felt relaxed. I felt grounded. I mean, it was the most beautiful feeling I had had in so long. You know, as we walked toward the gate, I kind of didn't want to leave. I just felt so good. The guide asked me, he said, you know, because we had talked about why I was there, and I had mentioned my husband's situation and just really wanting to connect to myself. And he said, what are you taking away as far as your husband's situation, and really as far as you're concerned? What are you taking away with you that you can hold? And from somewhere like deep into my heart, I said, I have this burning desire to love myself so deeply that no one, and I mean no one, can knock me off my foundation. It gives me chills to even speak this to you now. And as I said this, the horse that was standing by the gate, the one who had stayed apart from everyone else, walked right up to me and she nuzzled me. And the guide was standing there and he's like, she doesn't do that with many people at all. He told me, he said, she's our only rescue. And he told me her name, but I can't remember the name, but the meaning of it was the goddess of healing. And she nuzzled me again. And then she walked back to her spot. I felt seen. I felt validated. And I felt very, very blessed. Now, there are still things unfolding from this experience for me. And there may be more that I'll share about it. Yet, I hope that you felt some of what I had felt. And in fact, I want to go find one around here, because it took me places that I just couldn't go, right? Like we all do. Like we have different tools in our tool belt. Now, the second thing that I want to share about is the Kintsugi class. So I had the horse experience, and then I had a break, and then I had the Kintsugi class, the only 2 classes I signed up for that day. Now, if you're not familiar with Kintsugi, it's that Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, and usually like with gold. It can be with other metals, but gold is kind of what we see a lot of. It's about embracing the philosophy that breakage and repair are part of the object or person's beauty and story. Rather than hiding the damage, Kintsugi honors it. Now, the traditional process, I think she had said, takes 4 to 6 weeks or something like that, because what the resin that they use to glue it back together has to sit for a long time. But in this class, we were doing a little differently. And we were invited to break this beautiful handmade bowl, and they were really pretty, and then sit with the pieces before repairing anything. And that part alone was really revealing. So she showed us first these examples. So at first we talked and just about what it all meant. And then she showed us a couple examples and I felt, I'm like, ooh, I like that example. I want my bowl to look like that one. Perfectly broken, perfectly repaired. It looked gorgeous. So there was a part of me that believed I could control how to break this bowl so I could put it back together the right way, the way I wanted it to be. All right. Do you notice a pattern here? I got a little bit of a control issue. Okay. That belief, my friend, did not survive long. So we put and this is what she did. She had us put the bowl in a bag, like a little burlap bag. So you couldn't see it. And then you had to take the hammer and then you had to hit it. Okay. Even hitting the bowl was hard. Even breaking the pieces was hard. You just noticed how you felt about that. Then once we broke it, you could hear it crack. And then I'm just like, oh my God, I hope it broke the right way. Really? I hope it broke the right way. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. And then when everybody's done, we sat with the pieces still in the bag. Okay. We just sat there. And then we quietly, without words or anything, we took out the pieces out of the bag and we laid them down. My heart hurt. My bowl didn't break the way that I thought it was going to break. It wasn't perfect, right? But I'm noticing all the emotions and the feelings and what I call these dust bunnies, which are kind of like these stuck emotions and ideas and thoughts. And all this was coming up and they don't show up until we slow down enough to let them. For me, these dust bunnies represented the places I felt alone, where I felt betrayed, where I betrayed myself, where I had fallen short. All the places I felt broken. And there were still many of them. They all came flooding up and tears happened. Now, the next step is putting the bowl back together. So when it came to do that, not all the pieces fit. All right. I'm looking at the example bowl and it's just not going to happen. So, some of these pieces, they had shattered. Some just crumbled and some simply weren't meant to be a part of my bowl. It became an embodied practice of letting go and honoring, accepting that some parts couldn't come with me, some and could be transformed with gold, but some simply needed to be honored and let go. But I'm also going to say not just let go, but integrated into me. And all I could do was accept it all and create the beauty anyway. So here is the bowl, and I'm going to see if I can get it to where you can see it. This is my bowl, and I put a little heart in there. But what I love about this is it's simple. There's like a woman reaching up. If you can see that, this bowl was gorgeous. But getting these pieces right here to even stick together, and especially right here, that took practice. It took patience. You had to hold it. You had to hold the glue. And it was, if you moved a little bit, it would break. If you, again, and so you learned how to ask for support, because that was the other thing. It was so important to learn to ask for support. And because she had this painter's tape, because sometimes she says, sometimes we just need a little bit of help. So we had to learn to ask for help. Oh my God. It was such an experience, especially after the horses. So with those two experiences, the horses and Kintsugi, they met me in places I didn't realize were still so tender, right? Yet I felt also more fortified. I felt seen and understood, not only from others, but really from myself. I wasn't hiding anymore. And that I didn't have a mask on. All the masks we wear, right? All the things that we do to show up for other people, the way we think other people want us to show up, all the ways we've been trained to be. Now, the horse experience, the Kintsugi experience, it didn't fix me. They softened me. And they prepared me for what I was finally ready to receive. Now, here's some things that stayed with me that I want to share with you. Healing happens faster when we stop doing it alone. Okay. In a group, therapy, coach. We're not meant to. Grief needs a witness. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned over these last few years. It's important. Another thing I learned is rest is not a reward. It's a requirement. So we have to stop beating ourselves up, running ourselves into the ground, not resting, going at 500 miles an hour. For what? Rest is not a reward. It's a requirement. Letting others help doesn't mean you love anyone less. That was me. Or it doesn't mean you love less. Letting others help doesn't mean you're weak. Group experiences don't have to cost you yourself, right? That's another biggest thing that I've learned through this whole experience. And receiving is a skill many of us were never, ever taught. Receiving and asking for help, because the world tells us you can do it. Yes, we can. But do we have to? Some things we have to do alone, but not everything. So I want to offer a few gentle ways that you can integrate this episode and not just listen to it. Okay. So one is doing a little check-in. Where am I still holding on? So I'd like you to ask yourself, where am I carrying responsibility that no longer belongs solely to me? Okay. Especially as caregivers, whether you're a mom or you have the parents or you siblings, when you're taking care of people, even coworkers, right? Or a project. Where am I carrying responsibility that no longer belongs solely to me? And then what would it look like to share the load, even 5%? What would it look like? What would it feel like if you did that? I felt seen, heard, and understood. It was great. Number 2 is a receiving practice. Just for one day. You can even start with a half a day. What I'd like you to notice is when someone offers to help you. How do you feel? What do you say? Notice when someone offers kindness. How do you feel? Do you accept the compliment? Or do you shut it down? This is no judgment. No judgment either way. We're just noticing. We're just creating awareness. And I also like you to notice for that day when something feels nourishing to you. I'm using that word more these days because I now feel nourished when I rest. I feel nourished when I take a walk. I feel nourished when I ask for support. And instead, I'd like you to practice. Once you notice, then you can be more aware. And then I'd like you to practice saying yes, not deflecting a compliment, saying thank you. That's it. Like no is a complete sentence, so is thank you, right? I don't want you to justify, no minimizing. If somebody offers for help, maybe say yes. Just try it. Now, the third one is I'd like you to place a hand on your chest or your belly and ask, this is the truth. What do I actually need right now? Not what you should need. What's true? If you start your day that way or end your day that way, or maybe even when we're feeling tense, I'm doing that a little bit more like that, like you just heard me do. I took a deep breath and I exhale it out. And then I ask myself, what do I really need right now? Now, I want to thank you for hanging with me and hearing my story. I want to share this trip didn't fix my life, but it softened something that had been clenched tightly for a long time. And sometimes that's where healing just begins. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to sit with it. Maybe journal, maybe take a walk, maybe just let it land, take a breath. And if you found yourself saying, yes, me too, know that you're not alone. So play with those questions. Accept a compliment. Notice when someone's kind to you. You deserve it. Because please, as always, be gentle with yourself. And remember that you matter. You really matter a lot. And until next time, take care. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.